I heard you had a dream. What did it tell you?
Welcome to the Neurovisionary podcast. I'm your host, Sophia Sunshine. So today we're going to talk about working with dreams, but specifically some tricks of the trade in terms of how to remember your dreams and how to start working with the images. So a lot of people say to me, "Oh, I never remember my dreams." And this is so familiar because I feel like this is the same thing I heard people say when they would find out I was an artist. "Oh, I'm not creative." And here's a news flash for all of you. You are innately creative because you are human and you do dream. Now, remembering is a completely different thing than whether you dream or not. And here are a few things to consider. First of all, if you are being jolted awake every morning by a very loud and aggressive alarm, well, it's no wonder you don't remember your dreams. You might as well have someone throw a bucket of water on you because it is going to very quickly change your level of consciousness. It will shock your system. You know, I know we all have to sometimes get up at a certain time, but that doesn't mean you can't make time for your dreams and to work with them. And part of it is setting the intention with your body and your mind before you go to bed that you actually want to wake up at a certain time, because we all have a biological clock. Now, if you haven't practiced this, I suggest you start, because not only will it help you start to remember your dreams, but it might actually be a little kinder to your body. Here's what you do is before you go to sleep, you make a mental note. I would like to wake up at 6:30 a.m. Okay, body? Okay, mind? Please wake me up at 6:30 a.m. Now, here's what you're going to do is you're going to set your alarm for 6:45 because it's supposed to be a backup in case you fell back asleep, right? And you don't want to miss your appointments. But if you set your internal alarm for earlier, then you can wake up gently. And what that means is that as you begin to wake up, you will still be half in dream time and half in conscious waking time. And as you are in between those two states, you have an opportunity to notice the images, the feelings, and that is the magical time where you can lay there, keeping your eyes closed, being all cuddled in bed and relaxed because you're in that deep relaxation state, where you're going to actually make an effort to imprint into your conscious waking memory any shreds of the dream that you were having. I do this all the time. So the other night we were going to some kind of hotel. So I imprinted the image. And that's the thing about dreams is majorly they're images. So it's like taking snapshots and then logging them in your conscious mind. So the snapshot is, oh, we're at the counter checking in at some hot springs resort. And what did that guy say? Oh, the water is rocky. It's rough today. And I see a piece of paper on the counter that he slides over to me that looks like some kind of a script with an X on it, which is not what I would be expecting when I'm checking in someplace, right? So click, there's that image. Next image, I'm peeking out the back door, a hotel or someplace, but it actually feels like my home in the woods in Oregon. And I can feel the building on either side of me and standing in a doorway, looking into the forest. Click. Oh, and now I see people moving through the forest on a trail, on horseback. Click. So I will log whatever visual images I can of my dreams upon waking. And then if it's a really wonderful morning, where I can spend some time with my dreams. These are extremely important images because they inform your daily choices. They inform major decisions you might be making or ways that you interact while you're awake. And so I have a dream journal. For some people, because keeping those images in the memory it's a slippery slope, a lot of times I recommend you put the dream journal right on your nightstand with, if you need to, a little flashlight and a pen. And before you're even out of bed, just scribble down a few words that will prompt you to remember the scenes. And trust me, you might have gone about your day and completely forgotten these dream images, like just no clue what you had dreamed about. But I bet you anything, if you go back to that dream journal and you see this 2-3 words and you close your eyes and you just let yourself relax into the idea of the image, you will find yourself going there and it will bubble back up from your unconscious into your conscious awareness. And it's a really fascinating experience when it happens, because it's like our memories, right? It is a memory. It could even be similar to a childhood memory or, something that you forgot ever happened. And when it comes back, it can be quite surprising how vivid it can be, right? So dreams are the same. They're just hiding out. So how you wake up, how you intentionally focus on the images before they're completely gone, trying to bring them into your conscious waking state, writing them down. I'll do the visual imprinting, and then I'll get up, I'll make my coffee, and I'll sit down, and then I will go back, close my eyes, and take myself back to that dream and really get into the presence of it and write down every detail that I can remember. And you will surprise yourself. It will be amazing how much more detail is there than you ever imagined. Sometimes people think, oh, well, I only saw this one image. Well, don't we already know that an image can say 1,000 words, right? So if you actually take time to look at that image, you may discover there is a lot going on. A lot of information can come across in one single image. And so don't think that you don't have something to work with if you just have a flash of an image, okay? Once you have that written down, and I would date it, you might want to make a note on that page with the dream if there's some significant thing going on in your life at that time, something that might have happened the day before or something you're contemplating. I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt to make a note of that. I feel like it's important to acknowledge that it's actually a sacred practice. It's not something that I recommend you do in like a busy house with people running around all over. I would treat this like a self-care moment. You might even want to light a candle. You may want to close the door and be by yourself and just create a calming environment. For some of you, you may want to do some of these practices lying down and have your journal nearby, because when we go to work with the dream, everything is going to start changing. And there's many, many stages to that evolution. Today, I'm going to talk with you first about association, and then secondly, about amplification. These terms are very common in terms of dream work. Association is just that. Let's say there's a dream image, and let's say it's a horse. Horses have a tremendous amount of symbolism around them. But when we work with the dream image initially, it's very important to actually be in the dream with the image. So you're going to want to close your eyes and be in your dream again. See the images of your dream around you, like you're reliving it. The first thing is to notice what stands out the most. When you notice, let's say that image, and it could be a horse, it could be something else, right? What arises out of your memory, from your current life, from your past life? What ideas, memories, thoughts bubble up? When I ask you, what does that make you think of? And you'll notice immediately a cascade of curious memories. And those are important because, especially at the beginning, you'll be learning how your unconscious speaks to you. And everybody's unconscious speaks in its own language, in its own symbols. For me, a horse is going to represent something different on a felt sense, not only because of my personal relationship with horses, at what time in my life I engaged with them, what events happened, what things I felt from those events, what meaning I made of those stories. And then there's going to be other levels of meaning that come from a more collective unconscious or mythological background. But we want to start with our own personal associations. So I would recommend, if you're just starting out and doing the dream work, that you've written down your dream and then circle one of the images, and on another page, put the name of that image at the top, and then just allow the associations to come to the surface of your mind and just write them down. And you can do this with each aspect of the dream and just notice first, what is the terrain? And that is the emotional, mental, experiential, and especially how does this inform what meaning you might make of this image? When it comes to amplification, this is when we step back, and we're still in the dream, but we step back and we notice if there's anything standing out. And when that object or that character or whatever it is, something will kind of rush to the forefront because it wants you to pay attention to it. So in this process, we're going to look even more closely and discover things we may not have noticed before. Characteristics, colors, qualities. Again, it opens a doorway into the felt sense. I'll give you a little example. In my most recent dream, I went to the hot springs, and the concierge seemed to believe that the pools were going to be rough and rocky that day. Too rough and rocky for me, which he gave me a sense that he thought maybe I was, too sensitive or vulnerable for the state of these pools. The dream continued, but when I woke up and I went back to tend to that dream, I said to myself, well, Sophia, we need to go see that concierge. So I went back to the desk, and as I stood there, all of a sudden now I'm back in the dream and I'm standing before this dream character and I'm feeling into the energy of that dream character. And it was very interesting because if you start this practice, you'll realize that it's actually no different than feeling into a living person. There is palpable energy in these dream characters. And so I could feel that part of him was detached, and yet I wasn't taking it for granted that this was a male character. It seemed like maybe he was trying to look out for me. But why would he bother to tell me that the pools were rough and rocky and maybe too much for me? It sounds kind of protective. And yet, he felt a little detached, but there was something else there. Kind of like if you've had someone who was really supportive, but then your needs changed and they didn't really know how to support you anymore. And so they are there and they're trying to be helpful, but they're not trying to hover or keep doing what you've already told them isn't working. And so there's a complexity there. And I felt this. And that would be very appropriate for my own masculine, because I've been in a long-term project with my inner masculine to redefine its role in my life and how we work together. And so I asked him, I said, well, can you take me to the pools, please? I'd like to see them for myself. And so he led me down the dark corridor and out into the open yard. And there I saw two rectangular pools. One was bigger than the other and deeper, but they certainly didn't look rough and rocky. I had to wonder, just in my persistence and my curiosity, which often happens with dreams, our unconscious, it's showing us our limiting beliefs. Oh, you're too sensitive. Oh, it would be too rough for you. You should just go stay home. And you know what? Honestly, there is a part of me that feels that because I've felt very vulnerable over the last number of years from illness and being highly sensitive. So it's not wrong. But there's another part of me that doesn't necessarily want to live within that limiting belief. And that's the part that says, show me the pools. Show me the pools. And mind you, we're not going to go deep into this dream because I'll share this dream in a feature. But pools, we're talking about unconscious material. We're talking about the emotional world. We're talking about creativity. What world do I want to swim in? And I'm in a big place of decision in my life. What path am I going to take? What pond am I going to swim in? This amplification process dovetails into the next step, which is animation. That's a little bit of what's going on when now this dream character is actually leading me farther into the dream and new information is being revealed. I'm going to go into that and other techniques in the next video, but for now, I want to go back over the basics so you can prepare. This is your let's get started working with dreams. I want to challenge you to set your internal alarm at least 15 minutes. Maybe you want to do it more earlier so you actually have time to work with your dreams. But I want you to set your internal clock earlier than your alarm and start practicing that. Then I want you to have a dream journal with, if you needed, a little flashlight and a pen next to your bed. And then when you do wake up, I don't want you to jump out of bed. I want you to keep your eyes closed. Hold on to whatever shreds of images are there. Using your mind as a camera, take a snapshot and do your best to land it in your conscious memory. Take a snapshot of whatever dream segments or dream images you can and land it in your conscious memory. Make a note of it. Write it down, and you could just do a few words for each image segment. If you can make the time that morning to go sit down with a cup of tea in a quiet place or coffee and write out every aspect of what you saw happen, like it was a movie, in your dream journal. And then when you have the time, you're going to have a quiet place where you can be relaxed and you can close your eyes and you can go back into the dream image itself, piece by piece. It could be the place, then it could be the characters. But I want you to first start with associating. What memories arise? What stories arise? What meaning arises? And then if you want to try amplification, just notice what stands out the most when you close your eyes and look at a single dream scene. And then look closer and write down whatever you see or feel. So thank you so much for joining me. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We are talking about the unconscious, so it is an ocean. So I look forward to connecting with you more, and I hope you have sweet dreams. And thanks for joining me here at the Neurovisionary podcast. I'm your host, Sophia Sunshine.
I heard you had a dream. What did it tell you?